You're listening to the Mindful Mama podcast, episode 111. Today we're talking about how to practice fierce kindness with Melanie Salvatore August. Welcome to the Mindful Mama podcast. Here it's about becoming a less irritable, more joyful parent. At Mindful Mama, we know that you cannot give what you do not have. And when you're thriving, when you have calm and peace within, then you can give it to your children. I'm your host, Hunter Clark-Field's Mindful Mama mentor. I coach overstressed moms on how to cultivate self-awareness in their daily lives and to take family and life to a new level of peace and cooperation. I've been practicing yoga and mindfulness for over 20 years. I'm the creator of the Mindful Parenting course, and I'm the mom of two girls who challenge me to every day to hone my craft. So thank you so much for being here, my friend. Welcome back to the Mindful Mama podcast. We've been really having a lot of fun here. I've been getting some incredible feedback from you guys. Thank you for the wonderful reviews and the emails and the notes and the shares, everything. It just really makes me feel amazing. So thank you so much for that. If you are new to the Mindful Mama podcast, thank you for being here. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And we mix it up here. We have interviews, episodes with just you and me, etc. And we talk about lots of things pertaining to how to be a mindful mama in this crazy world. So you'll hear a lot. But today we're going to be talking to Melanie Salvatore August, and she's a mama, teacher, and author, and kindness activist. She has taught yoga since 2005, like me, and she's the author of Kitchen Yoga and Fierce Kindness, Be a Positive Force for Change. Very, very cool book that we're going to talk about. This conversation goes deep. It's really cool. Mel shares tested tools to create joy, growth, and freedom. And that's what we talk about. We talk about this constant lifelong practice and state of mind, and also how things don't necessarily have to be complicated to be effective, and how sometimes change happens very quickly. So there's a lot here. I know that you are going to get so much out of this episode. She's really a deep and wise human being that you are going to love. And yeah, so we're going to dive into this episode. Just quickly before we do, just want to let you know that if you're listening to this live, this is towards the end of March 2018. And coming up soon is the deadline for joining my spring retreat in Wilmington, Delaware at the Winterthur Country Estate on April 14th. We won't be taking any people, I think, after the end of the month. So if you're interested, please join the amazing women who are already joined this retreat. It's going to be an amazing day with food and relaxation and deep listening and just letting go, like feeling held and supported and just in community, right? We need that so much. So come meet in person. We get to hug and hang out. That's at mindfulmamamentor.com/spring retreat. So I hope you'll check that out there. And then let's just dive into this episode. Melanie, thank you so much for coming on the Mindful Mama podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Me
too.
So, I've introduced you, but you're a mama. You have 3 boys, right? And a yoga teacher. And how old are your boys right now?
Just turned 11, 8, and just turned 4. I had 2 January babies. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So you're in the thick of it with the 4-year-old still, right?
Yeah. In fact, we just did potty training. We had been reluctant trainers. So we just did that, and now I feel like somehow we're shifting gears, finally out of diapers and things. So,
hallelujah.
It's wonderful and a lot. I'm super humbled by it.
Oh my gosh. So I've been loving reading Fierce Kindness, and I really want to kind of go back to what brought you to writing this book. I'm just always curious about kind of the backstory, because it's this lovely book. I recommend everyone get it and just kind of put it by your bedside. And it's got all the messages are amazing, which I'm sure we'll dive into, but take us back to what made you decide to write this book.
Well, thank you, by the way. I really appreciate it. No, like any of us, it's a progression over so many years of making realizations and kind of figuring out, wow, that doesn't work. or, or wow, that does really work. And I myself had gone through a series of really dark years, my 20s and even my early 30s, really, really rough. And even though when I look back on paper, it looked like I had everything I could possibly ever want, I didn't see it. And my yoga exploration, learning about the process of becoming the observer and not listening to everything that you tell yourself, which is a part of yoga, super powerful. And so I started, when I taught asana and meditation, I started to begin to explore, how do we separate from our thoughts, and then how do we listen to how we're talking to ourselves, and then how do we say, no, that's wrong, and begin to turn it around. And from that, feel like we're part of something bigger to do good in the world. Like, okay, I'm going to shift myself, and now I'm going to, at the same time, go out and be a positive force for change. So it happened in my classes, and it started just to become this thing that then I just put it down on paper. This is what we're talking about.
So it sounds like it was this process of listening to the negative thoughts first, right? Like listening and kind of realizing when you're in that place of darkness, like being brave enough to look at, how am I contributing to this? Is that kind of what I'm getting?
I think absolutely. I mean, it hits accountability. Like, wow, I'm accountable for how I'm talking to myself. And can I say a naughty word? It's not that naughty.
Okay,
but,
sure, go for it.
But I'm being a dick to myself. That's terrible. Like what? Doing that, and that process too of like being able to slowly but surely, through really powerful and long used tools, because they are indeed classic yogic tools, shift myself, and then to see it affect others and see other people be able to do that too. Really powerful.
Wow. So what were the tools that helped you the most to shift from this darker place into a better place?
The first one, it may be debatable if it's a tool, but the realization that I'm not my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
The realization that there's somebody listening to the thoughts, like I'm the guy listening to the thoughts, not necessarily the guy talking.
Yeah. It's just so funny because like we can kind of know that and think that, but then when you realize it, you're like, oh, I'm really not my thoughts. It's like amazing.
Yes. Yeah. And with that, I'm not my circumstances. Like even to the point that this may feel very esoteric, but even in a female body, I'm collaborating with that circumstance right now, but I am not that. I am something more.
Now you talk about in the book, you talk about that there are two kind of channels or frequencies, like a positive channel, which you call the love channel, and you call in the negative channel, which you call the fear channels. And you kind of describe the difference between, as people are maybe thinking about, well, how do I understand? How do I recognize these thoughts? How do I get this distance? But also this idea of recognizing what is, say, a fear channel thought versus a love channel thought.
Mm-hmm. In that aspect of being the observer and feeling connected to something bigger than just the circumstances. And not to poo-poo circumstances, because like you're in pain. Circumstances can be very, very hard, but they're in flux. And that constant place, that connected place, for me and for many that I've experienced, that it is one that feels safe, whole, warm, held in that aspect. And so to me, that's coming from that space is, some may call it God. I call it love. It's like, okay, it's like the starting point, the womb of love. And if a thought I'm having, and again, that's like, well, I have to be able to listen to them and then discern what I'm saying and feel how it feels in my body. If that thought is from love, which is the most joyful, powerful place to be from, then it will have a certain feeling in my body. It may have like a warmth in my belly. I might feel a relaxation. My breath may deepen. And the bottom line is I have enough and there is enough, and let's sit with this and see where to go, and the fear for me, again, I can only kind of go for me, but the fear contracts me. The fear is what's going to happen to me. My muscles tighten, my breath shallows, my jaw seizes up, and it feels a certain way. And I'm a very feeling kinesthetic person, so I can feel my stomach or my belly. I can feel that oftentimes before I can hear the thought. And so when I get that feeling, I think, okay, no, I need to stop and breathe and try to dissect what it is that I'm hearing. What am I telling myself?
Yeah. So you're taking that time to pause and say, this feels crappy right now.
Yeah.
What am I telling myself that feels so crappy?
Yeah. And I boiled down, like, what am I afraid of right now? And sometimes I'm Italian. I'll blame it on everything. I'm Italian, French, Hunter. It comes out as anger. Like, but like when I start to get angry, like, what am I afraid? Like, I just need to work myself through it and listen, come down to it.
Do you see most of your anger as coming from fear?
A lot of it does.
Yeah.
A lot of it does.
Do you see that in your parenting now? Because you have 3 boys, they're all these different ages, and and I think that too. Like, when I really look at my parenting, when I really look at the times where I've lost it, it's like for me, it's like old baggage. It's always old baggage. It seems to always kind of be old baggage.
Absolutely.
You find the same thing?
I do. Well, first, and I have to say again, it's incredibly humbling. Like, I can be much more creative and help regulate and direct myself out in the world. And then I get home with my boys and I'm just like back to square one. I mean, they're amazing, amazing teachers, and I'm deeply humbled. And a joke in our family now is that if I get scared, I get angry. So like if I, what are you doing? Because I'm scared, you're going to like break your brother's neck. So yeah, lots of triggers and lots of old programming. And with that also, that's like to go back in that loving space and go, wow, my ancestors, they lived through a lot, to see them with compassion. And my parents, they're awesome and they did the best they can and they're doing the best they can. And we're each on each other's shoulders. That there are a lot of love that happened before us that brought us to right now where I'm having an aha moment.
So I want to talk to you about this idea of accountability. And I love that, like, you bring this idea of encouraging accountability into your book, and this idea to choose to be like curious and content in spite of your circumstances, which I love. I love that idea. But at the same time, I've recently been struggling with this idea because you were not accountable for the way you were raised. You're not accountable for your genetic contribution. Like, you probably didn't even have that much self-awareness till you were in your maybe 20s, So how do we reconcile this idea of kind of a radical accountability for how we feel and how we show up in the world and how we parent, and even accountability for our thoughts and all that stuff with, we are with everything, and we are a product of everything that came before and our culture and all that stuff.
Yeah. I hear you. I deeply hear you. What goes through me is the amazing gift of beginning again, beginning again, whether it's coming up with the sun or finishing the exhale and starting an inhale. We have this opportunity to begin again and put our heart forward to be accountable on not the circumstances necessarily, but how we look at them to find where the information is, to find where the nourishment is. And I say this, and that's based on a belief that I'm a part of something bigger, which is that first tool, that I'm not my thoughts and I'm a part of something bigger. And I know that translates differently to every person. But as I believe I'm a part of something bigger and that I'm collaborating in this life, I'm not driving at all, but I am playing tennis with it. It's up to me how I hit it back
Yeah.
or hold the
Yeah.
ball.
Yeah. So what you're saying is like, even no matter what our circumstances are, like what can, like kind of looking for those places of responsibility, like looking for them and saying, what can I be accountable for? How can I make some shift, make some change in these places? And even just at least, no matter what your circumstances, you can get down to that level of changing your thoughts, and that can change everything.
Yeah, I think you're right on. I also feel like, excuse me for a little naughty language again, it sucks less, right? It's just like that. It really sucks to have absolutely no power. It sucks. So where can I lovingly, gently, and truly gain my power on this? This may seem extreme, but for many years, it was a kind of a constant process of meditation almost, where I would imagine that I was completely bound. I couldn't move anything. I couldn't speak. I couldn't see. I couldn't respond. I could just breathe. And then what would I do? And the realization of like, if I can still breathe and I'm still within this consciousness, then I have everything I need, and everything else I can redirect.
And you talk about, and I want to talk about, like you talk about training your eye to see the good in the situation, but you're saying that everything else you can redirect. So before training the eye to see the good, I'd love to, what are some of the ways we can redirect? You talk about some ways to shift, and like, so I'd love to hear from your own words. What are these ways that we can shift if we're kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuck in this like mucky negative place, and we're feeling anxious, we're feeling fear, just those natural things that it's not our fault that we're feeling them, but how can we shift them?
Totally. And this comes through me in a very like, okay, some of it's really common sense kind of mama stuff. And it really doesn't have anything to do with the logical conversation, right? It's more the things that I'll throw out feel more maybe visceral, like go outside. Change the air you're in. Obviously this is that you can make these moves. If you're dry, go take a shower, clear it off. If you're very still and feel stuck, move, turn on your favorite music, dance. I mean, stuff that I think that we're like, oh yeah, of course we could do that. And it's incredibly effective. I mean, for us, for babies, I remember my firstborn, he just cried and cried and cried, and everyone would be like, take him outside. And it would be amazing. We'd walk out the door and he'd look up, and then suddenly he'd stop. So I think that we're just like that. And if we're moving, stop. So those simplest things, drink a glass of water,
Mm-hmm.
and they're very kind of physical. And then the aspect I find also too of like, okay, stream of conscious writing, start to hear the crap that's coming through you, which you're participating in with your brain. Start to see it and look at it. I find swear words really helpful. That F word especially, wow, it has power and it can be used in so many different ways, right? Just a conversation just with that to yourself, like clear it out. And then within that, starting to really then inquire. But I feel like there almost needs to be a catharsis or a anchoring, either one or the other, to begin.
Mm-hmm. So kind of like where you are, like take a moment to look at it, and kind of what I'm hearing from you is experiment, like try something, just try something. Like don't just say this is the way my life is, and I just take some action to change.
Yeah. Or the thought like, I don't like outside, I don't like water. I don't do water, I don't do mornings, whatever it is. I think it's just a tool in the toolbox, and different tools at different times, and just keep trying. And then if you feel like I'm not able to do it on my own, then reach out to a mentor, reach out to you, reach out to me, reach out, and people will rally to help you when you reach out, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, just making the decision that I'm going to do something, I'm going to make a shift, can be so powerful to starting to see all kinds of places and resources and support. I mean, I feel like that's all I see around me is like, and then
Yes.
I'd love for you to talk about this too. Like, you talk about the idea of the law of attraction, and I have mixed feelings about that, but I really
Mm-hmm.
appreciate the idea of seeing the good that is in any situation. And I kind of see that, like, when you start to look for the good, you see it. Just like if I ask you to look around this room and that you're in, and I say, look for all the red things, you're going to see a ton of red things.
Course.
You'll be like, I never knew all these red things were there. And then, if you look for all the blue things, you'll be like, oh my gosh.
I know, and you're changing my mind right now. I'm looking for all the red, and now I just went blue. You're mind controlling me. Yeah.
But I mean, I really see that's a very beneficial way of looking at things. So tell me about how that came about in your own life, of training your eyes to see the good.
Well, first, I feel like there's this aspect of like when things are overly simplified, we turn away from them because somehow I feel like many of us are trained that things need to be complicated to be effective, or everything, change takes a long time. And I think that there are many ways up the mountain and all can be applicable. And so there is that aspect of like, oh, law of attraction, it's almost too simple. And I have to say that it was kind of a joke I was playing with myself years back. It was like, okay, well, nothing's working. So, I'm just going to play a game. And I'm going to tell myself, and I use this example. It's so mundane. It's so actually kind of like, oh God, you're on a stair stepper at a gym, and just what am I telling myself? And I'm going to tell myself, I can do it. And I'm mocking myself the whole time. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. And I did. And I was like, holy moly. Oh my God, this is the secret to life, and then I forgot all about it. And stuff like that. Another time in New York, again, I use this in the book, but just that I was having a hard time leaving my apartment. And I mean, seriously, I was not leaving my apartment in New York City. And I decided that, I was just going to go out. I kind of had to push myself out. Of course, all my friends and family were on alert. Mel's holed up in New York City and not leaving. So I forced myself. I'm like, I'm going to go out for this amount of minutes and I'm going to look for kindness. And I started to see it. I saw it immediately and it melted me and stayed out a lot longer than I had planned because it was like, oh, I'm okay. And it was a repetition of doing those things that then I realized that there was actually this really genuine power in it.
Yeah. And you start to find what you're looking for. You look for kindness.
Yes.
You found kindness.
Yeah. And I stopped mocking it as well. I stopped actually undermining it. And I allowed myself to believe because the little Melzy, sweet one inside, really does want to believe.
Yeah, cynicism can be tough, right? It's like such a way. It's like, it really undermines a lot of things and prevents us from being immersed and seeing joy and things like that. I mean, this is beautiful. I love this, Melanie. So, you're going out, you're looking for that kindness, that fierce kindness. I love this. Fierce kindness. Why fierce? Tell us.
For me, and it's also what I've experienced, is that it takes my utmost highest energy to shift myself. It's not an easy thing. The cynicism, the fear, it's like a really deep laid operating system. I don't naturally go to like, yes, this is great. I'm going to give all I can and not be worried if I get hurt or whatnot. Hurt meaning like emotionally. I could expound on that, but just in the aspect of I could easily go down the rabbit hole and listen to those scarcity thoughts. Mm-hmm. So it takes a really strong part of me, a part that's connected to something bigger than myself, the part that has a belief that there is purpose to my life.
I love that.
I'm not exactly sure all the levels of what that purpose is. And at this point, I'm okay with not knowing all the levels of that purpose, but I do know there is purpose.
Well, you're having some ripple effects right now. Absolutely. Just even just for me having this conversation with you, I'm feeling inspired, and we can feed each other, right? Like we can feed each other this kindness. I love this. So how does this ripple into your parenting, and also like these principles, that you write about in Fierce Kindness, about, changing your thoughts and curiosity and all these practices, these practices of forgiveness and the choices and things like that. How are you sharing this with your sons? And, are you sharing it? Are they receptive? I'm really, because I've got an almost 11-year-old too. I know what it's like.
Well, receptivity, I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah. One of my guys, I'll leave him nameless, but he makes me laugh because he'll say, in a moment where he's not happy with whatever I'm doing and what's going on, he'll say, "You're not furious kindness, Mom." And now he does realize it's fierce, but at the time that was what he thought it was. And it would just, I'd be like, "You're right." I'm failing.
Oh, no.
And this is something that I'm consistently grappling with. I was raised with an understanding of discipline,
Mm-hmm.
and that a child needs to listen and be directed by the parents, or that child will get into a lot of trouble. Get them to listen now, because when they're a teenager, they're going to, burn your house down or have babies everywhere, whatever it is going to be. A lot of fear.
Yeah.
It feels exhausting to me, and it doesn't align with love. I know it is meant to love, but it doesn't align. So I'm trying, and let's talk in 10, 15 years and see how it goes. Maybe 20 years, I don't know, but I'm trying to just continue to come back and connect,
Mm-hmm.
and apologize when I am not on the mark, and talk them through. That sounds based in fear, and my reaction right now, that was a reaction, and it's based in fear. We could tell ourselves something different. Why don't we tell ourselves that? Let's feel how that feels when we tell ourselves that I'm honoring my body right now by eating the carrots instead of going back and getting another round of JoJo's, which are our favorite Trader Joe's cookies. Like something like that. Are they receptive? Sometimes. My oldest picked up the book, and it was to earn more video game time, but then he read the book and we discussed the chapters. But I allowed it to, if you want to do it, that'd be really great. And then you could, that'd be kind of like you could earn something. And it was really fun. So I think the book can actually be a really fun thing for children. And that's one of my hopes, that, I can move it to translate. So maybe it doesn't need a lot of translation, but maybe a little, so it's more accessible, like a workbook or something. That's one of my dreams, I think.
Yeah, it's a fun book to want to write in.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
I'm glad. Thank you.
I want to write all over it. Right. And I will start.
Good. Yeah. I think it's meant to be, I hope it's meant to be loved on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. And I hear you saying come back in years, but it's like, we can't control everything for our kids. But what I'm kind of hearing from you is this, I can practice showing up the best I want to show up, and I can practice showing up from love instead of fear, and I can practice recognizing that this is from fear and not just justifying it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it's a step of faith.
Mm-hmm.
Faith that love and connection will have more power.
Yeah, and we can make that choice, as you put so eloquently in this book. I love it. So thank you so much. I really appreciate, talking to you, Melanie. Where can people find out more about you and the book? And there's another book too. We talked about Fierce Kindness a lot, but there's this lovely kitchen yoga book where Melanie shares with pictures. These books are really fun books to have around.
They're tactile. I like them. They're tactile. Uh-huh.
They are. Even the covers, feels canvasy. Anyway, so where can people find out about you and your work and what's going on with you?
Well, thank you for all of that. So I have a website, MelanieSalvatoreAugust.com. It's being revamped right now, but it has consistent tools and links and things. The books are everywhere. Books are sold. There's also an Audible book of the Fierce Kindness, which, if you're like to listen, that was really fun to do. And I teach in the Bay Area, and then I often teach remotely. And if you ever wanted me to come do a workshop. I love to travel and connect with people, so I'm open to that. And fiercekindness.org. We're growing. I have a lovely partner who's a trauma therapist, and so we're growing trauma tools with these yogic tools, practical yoga tools. So there's good stuff coming. Good stuff coming.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the Mindful Mama podcast, but also just thank you for this work that you're doing, for dedicating your life and your energy towards bringing this beauty into the world, for opening people's eyes to beginning again, and to sharing your challenges, which makes it all the more accessible for all of us. So thank you, Melanie.
Thank you so much. And right back at you. Thank you for what you do. And thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for listening. Don't you love Melanie? She's pretty amazing, huh? I feel like she's a soul sister. So I hope you really enjoyed that. If you have questions, as always, you can email me at hunter@mindfulmamamentor.com. You can find the show notes and all kinds of things. I even have free courses, all sorts of stuff at mindfulmamapodcast.com. And if you're interested in joining me in person at the spring retreat, go to mindfulmamamentor.com/spring retreat. Get one of those few spots left. And that's it for this week. I wish you a beautiful week. I wish you peace. I wish you joy. I thank my dear William Fields for the music and all the incredible support. And I thank you for listening, for being part of this movement of people changing consciousness around the world. Wow, so cool. Wow, right? You are not alone. You're not. So I wish you a beautiful week. Namaste. Are you a mom who wants to feel less stressed and enjoy motherhood more? Do you want to be calmer with your kids and be more present for all of your life? I'm a mom who has gone from really being stressed and yelling when my kids were young to having a more grounded, more at ease relationship with life and having more enjoyable cooperative relationships with my kids. And I've shown hundreds and thousands of women around the world how to do this. And I want to show you how to do it too. So if you are currently feeling stuck or stagnant, this is definitely for you. I've created a free downloadable Audible training, Mindfulness for Moms, the superpower you need. And it will show you how to respond rather than react, how to let go of stress and feel more grounded in seconds, how to have a smoother day today and become more present for your kids for a lifetime. To get on this audio training absolutely free, simply visit the website www.mindfulmomguide.com.